Get on ADV Fest 2025, The Rides. This is one of the series of videos that I've been doing talking about the Get on ADV Fest in Sturgis, South Dakota in 2025. And in this one, we're going to be in this one, we're going to be talking about the rides. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Bike Like a Dog. Be sure you like and subscribe before you leave, and we're going to get on into this one. In this video, we're going to be talking about the Get On ADV Fest in 2025. It's come and gone, so sorry you missed it. But what I'm trying to do with these videos, let you know a little bit more about it so that next year you don't have to miss it. In fact, maybe you'll see something here that kind of tweaks your interest there and makes you think, didn't know what it was, but now that I do, I really want to go. That's what this is all about. As I said, be sure to like and subscribe before you leave today. That way you'll be sure to be aware of all the different installments as they come out. I certainly appreciate it, and hopefully you'll get some information that you'll find useful. Thus far, I've talked about where Sturgis is. We talked about the surrounding areas, some of the activities in the area, the campground, the food, things like that. Then this one, we're going to be talking about the rides. Because at the end of the day, a motorcycle rally is kind of about the rides. If you're not getting good rides, you may not find it as interesting as could be. Now, here you can see this is a list of the different rides that they had available. Now, this is after the fact. They published these each morning. And in this case, you see at the top here, there was a woman's ride that was hosted by Bree Rides. And that's the first one there. But if you scrolled on down, you'd see all of the different rides that are there. Now, I'm going to hit the lowest rung first because there's possibility that somebody who's not actually interested in riding on dirt trails is watching this. Or maybe you're interested, but hey, let's face it, we have, there are a lot of us who have families that are not necessarily as excited about ADV riding as we are. So that means there's a question of, do you go on a trip like this by yourself? Or is this something your whole family could possibly enjoy? Well, as you can see here, on Thursday and Friday, part of the published routes were a couple that were all on paved roads. Granted, that's just 2 days out of the 3, but I mean, you're right there at the Black Hills National Forest, the Custer State Park, the Badlands. I mean, you can point in just about any direction and find something of interest. You're not that far from the Devil's Tower and stuff like that. So plenty of stuff to see on that third day if you don't want to get on dirt. Now let's move on over to the easy rides. As I said, each morning a ride of each level was presented. So, these are the easy ones. Oh, by the way, almost forgot. I wanted to point out that at the picnic tables behind the Rever tent at the chip, there were tables with signs. There'd be one that said easy, one said moderate, one said difficult, and so forth, so that if you didn't have somebody to ride with, maybe you came with your family and they're going to go see Mount Rushmore today while you're out riding. Perfectly acceptable. You just go down to the Rever tent there, go to the table that has the difficulty of the ride that you're interested in, and you meet up with other riders. And there you go. You guys go on that particular ride. So you're never hurting for somebody to ride with. Now, for my son and I, we are brand new riders, and we felt like really if we tried to get on one of these rides, one of two things would happen. We would either hold a bunch of people back, or we would push ourselves beyond where we were really comfortable, or maybe both, right? So before we got to South Dakota, I don't think my son had put more than like 2 hours in on gravel roads, and I mean gravel. No really ruts or puddles or anything like that. It was basically groomed gravel roads. So we were fine going on those easy routes, and we did find them challenging for us. There was gravel, a little bit of sand. There was some puddles. In fact, we heard at dinner on Thursday night, we heard that because of the mud from all the rain that came in, that the easy route had actually been kind of turned into a difficult route because there was apparently a lot of mud on that route. But we didn't go that day, so can't speak to it. But there were rocks, there were steep enough climbs and descents that challenged us. And man, we were completely happy with the easy ride, no problem. And I do want to point out that you don't have to do the rides as they're presented, right? I mean, they're presented in one way. But you could do them backwards. You could you could modify them however you wanted to. And that's what my son and I did. That we went riding, made it kind of a boys' trip where we're just out kind of doing our own thing. And so on Friday, instead of doing the Friday route, we saw that the Thursday route had a couple of pinch points in it, where the outbound trip came very close to the inbound, to the return route. And we thought that would be pretty good because we weren't used to really riding for 4 or 5 hours. My son definitely was not, and even if he had been on his Ninja, he certainly was not used to that on the 2x4 that the CRF 250L calls a seat. So we decided that we would do that because those pinch points, you could see here where it kind of gets narrow there, and you can see that there's a road that connects through there. So we knew that we would be able to take a shortcut if we wanted to. We got to the first of those two pinch points, and we'd been on the road for probably an hour. I don't know, so somewhere between an hour and a half. And I asked him, do you want to keep going? Because there's another pinch point coming up. We can take another little short loop and come back to that one, or we can go ahead and cut across. Well, at that point, that 2x4 was getting to him. So he said, no, let's go ahead and cut across. So we did. And that means that our trip up to Sturgis, our trip up to Deadwood looked something like this. That was our modified route for the day. And because we were by ourselves, not a problem. Then we stopped in Deadwood, parked our bikes in a parking deck, went over, got to a restaurant, got some food, enjoyed that, sat and watched the activity going on around in Deadwood, going up and down Main Street there, and then walked on down, did some shopping where I paid for the trip. And if those of you that are married that have ever gone on a trip without your wife know what I'm talking about when I say I paid for the trip by going shopping at a jewelry store. Anyway, we had a nice time, jumped back on the bikes, jumped back on the route, which at that point was all pavement all the way back to the chip. But we were perfectly happy. We had a great time. We were challenged. We were enjoying ourselves. It was gorgeous day. It was gorgeous scenery. And so, yeah, we were perfectly happy. And I think that anybody could do the same thing. don't feel like you have to do these rides just as they're published. It's at the end of the day, it's a suggestion. Now, I was fortunate in that I brought my riding buddy with me. So I wasn't having to hook up with anybody at the easy table or something like that. But, you can figure out what you want to do. Okay, now, the other rides, the more advanced rides. Now, I can't personally speak to any of these. I didn't ride them, obviously. I can show you what they look like. But one of the good things is that if you're not sure what Rever and the Revzilla guys consider to be a quote unquote moderate trail, they had a moderate test loop that you could ride. So it was kind of a shortened version that included all of the different types of terrain that you could run into on the moderate trail. And if you could ride that test loop and you found that to be right up your alley, then you knew that, hey, this is what I need. If you thought that that was a little too basic for you, then you might want to move on up to the difficult level. Or if you found that moderate test loop was just a little bit too much over your head, you might want to drop back to an easy loop. But I thought it was great that they had that test loop so that you could kind of try out your skills against what they considered moderate, so that you could see kind of where do I fit on this sliding scale, right? So you can see they had moderate trails. Each day they had difficult trails. And you can see down at the bottom of each one, they have kind of a description for what it was, what kind of entailed. And that came really handy if all of these look too easy to you, and even the difficult, you're an expert rider. And you're like, man, this is just basic stuff. Well, they did have one expert trail for the week. And here, I'm just going to quote the description from that expert ride. Okay, here's the quote. This route was designed for single-cylinder dual sport and ADV bikes under 900 cc's. Half single track, half two track, or gravel roads. There are hill climbs with tight switchbacks, embedded rock fields, and tall ruts. There will be no sweep for this route. We recommend not riding this route solo and being prepared for trailside maintenance and self-extrication. That's their description. So if you consider yourself an expert, yeah, they got something for you too. Now, as great as these things are, part of the excitement, part of the attraction to a rally such as this is being able to sit down at dinner and talk it all over with other riders. Now, maybe it was somebody that was in your group, or maybe it was somebody that took the same route but was in a different group, or maybe it's somebody that you knew or met that had done a different ride completely that day, and you just want to kind of compare notes on your rides. But that social time is part of the overall experience and really just elevates the riding to another level, in my opinion. Now, one thing I should point out is, yes, we have all of these curated rides that were provided to us. There were also the rides, if you go out and look at in Rever, you can join the communities. There's a community for 2025 ADV Fest if you want to go look at the rides. There's also one for 2024 ADV Fest so that you could go look at those rides, which means that if you didn't want to do the rides that came out this year, you could look at the ones they did last year and maybe do some of those. I'm sure there are other trails and everything in the area, various, just about every GPS, every track app has some sort of routes that they can show you in that area more than likely. But one that I do want to point out is that the Black Hills BDRX loop is right there. The Black Hills National Forest is basically the Black Hills BDRX loop. I mean, it pretty much goes around the entire forest there. And even though that loop is set up so that, it's done in 3 sections, and at the end of each section, there's some lodging and stuff like that. In theory, you could base yourself out of the Buffalo Chip and ride section 1 on day 1 and section 2 on day 2 and section 3 on day 3. Now, some of those endpoints might start, or endpoints, I guess, depending on how you're doing it, might be, an hour to 2 hours from the chip. So, you call your own shots, but it is there. The main thing is, if you're curious about what the rides look like, you're not just dependent upon people who rode these routes as part of Get On ADV Fest. You can look at people who rode Get On ADV Fest. You can look at their riding that they did in 2025, 2024, 2023. You can look at people who have recorded videos riding the BDRX. There are certainly a lot of, if pavement is kind of your thing, then the Sturgis motorcycle rally, there's probably hundreds of videos of people riding their Harleys around those paved routes, up the Needles Highway and Iron Mountain and all those kinds of things. So there's a lot of stuff out there for you to look at. And if you go look at just about any video from the Badlands, the Black Hills, Custer State Park, things like that, then you're going to get a good idea of what the riding is like out there. And let me stress this. No matter how good that riding looks when you're watching the video, it's 100 times better when you're sitting there on a motorcycle riding it, because you just cannot imagine what it's like to be completely surrounded by that incredible park. Okay, well, that's pretty much does it for the rides, which means that pretty much does it for this video. Make sure you like and subscribe. You can see what the other installments are for the ADV Fest 2025. And we'll talk to you later, okay? So long, y'all.